Hey y'all, we're headed out in the garden today, but first I want to show you what I'm doing for the first time. Yes, this is on my washing machine. And we are incubating baby chicks. We're incubating eggs. Hopefully we're going to get baby chicks. Y'all wish us luck. Come on. Well, there she is. Let's take a peek over here at the containers. We've got some that are growing good and some that are not. Here's some zinnias. And that beautiful little bicolored flower there is a Lagos spinach. It is a summer heat-loving spinach type plant. It's really good. You can use it any way you use spinach. Over here we've got some zucchini and zinnias. We've got failure. There's nothing. There's some sunflowers. Here we have vegetable amaranth and a zucchini plant that's struggling. I'm probably going to just pull it out of there. And over here, more failure. Something is eating my sunflowers there. And there's mess. This is going to be the future container garden area. I've got my green stalks back there. I'm going to bring out some other pots. And it gets dappled sunlight due to the tree there. It gets some good morning sun. And let's just take a look at the garden over here. Still haven't found anything to cover up this cardboard. All the okra and zinnias I planted in here by seed, direct sowing, have not come forward. We still have some sage and some holy basil, oregano, rosemary. The nasturtiums have just about given up the ghost, but I'm hoping that they drop their seeds there and come back when the weather cools off. There's some basil going to seed. This is my perennial herb bed. It'll always just be herbs. This Don Juan climbing rose has done really well as far as climbing high, but I'm going to have to do some more research on pruning this to make it bush out. And here we have another lovely little climbing rose. I can't remember the name. This was a volunteer tomato, and look, it's taking over the arbor right here, and it's growing in this bed. This was the blue cream berry that we had growing in the winter, and I wanted to see here in South Florida if this is going to grow better in summer. It grew well in winter, but it just didn't have much flavor, so I'm wondering if it's one of those varieties of tomato that really needs the heat, you know, for some flavor. Okay, we're going back here, and this is so sad to me. I was so upset. Y'all, look at these cucumbers. They have died. Look at this. This is a major infestation. I killed so many caterpillars on that, and they just kept coming back. And also we had a lot of bacterial wilt. And at this point, I was just like, I'm not going to bother with them. And let's talk about that. So the other day I was thinking about this famous saying. You remember when I guess it was the president or something, said, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. And in my mind, I was paralleling that to the garden, and I was telling myself, ask not what your garden can do for you, but what you can do for your garden. Now with those cucumbers, I have BT. I could have sprayed them, but I also noticed my soil is really lacking this year, you guys. And things are struggling to grow throughout the garden. That is a sign to me of poor soil, of spent soil, and I don't want to give the disease and the pest and all of that an opportunity to grow, to repopulate, and just to become a major problem. So ask not what my garden can do for me, but what I can do for my garden. You know, a lot of times we want to grow food because we say, I want to grow food. Not often does someone start a garden because they say, I want to learn soil management. I want to learn how to feed the mycorrhiza and feed all the good living things in the soil. No, we just think, I want to grow food. And it's coming in summertime here in my zone in 10A. I garden so much easier in the winter because we hardly ever get a frost. If we do, it's usually very light, just 1 or 2 days in late January. So I just really think prime time gardening for me is October through March, April, and we're in May right now. I mean, things like green beans, they're growing great. We're going to look at them in a second. But, things that are a little more tender, like cucumbers and such, they're just not thriving. And when your plants aren't really healthy, they're a lot more susceptible to these insects and to these diseases. So ask not what my garden can do for me. I'm not going to ask the garden to grow me food this summer. What can I do for my garden? I'm going to work on soil amendment, and I'm going to do a living mulch and a green chop and drop mulch. And I'll tell you what that's all about. But first I want to show you something silly I did. In this bed here, I got some store-bought black-eyed peas. I came out here one day and pulled out a lot of the weeds. I did leave the clover because clover is the nitrogen fixer. And I pulled out all the other weeds and things in this bed. And I was so frustrated because I've been working in the garden for about 2 hours. And I was hot, sweaty, and my back hurt. And I thought, you know what, these are just store-bought black-eyed peas. I'm just going to throw them in here willy-nilly. And I did, and I raked some dirt over them. And then we got 3 inches of rain, which washed the dirt away off of a lot of them. So I really wasted seed, but I only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I only have about 20 of them that germinated. And I'm sure I put a lot more seed than that in here. You can see some of the seeds on the top. So going forward, I am not going to just toss the seeds in and rake them over. I'm going to intentionally plant, just like I would plant if I were growing them for food. So I'm going to intentionally just poke my hole in there, put the seed in there, and space them out. I'm going to grow them relatively thick. Let me tell you what we're going to do. We're going to put them in there, and we're going to let them grow until they start to flower. And they're cow peas, black-eyed peas, pink-eye, purple hull type peas. But I'm just using store-bought grocery store black-eyed peas because this is a lot of seed I want to use, and I want to cover a lot of area. And I'm going to do this in all these beds. I've got some flowers growing. I'm going to grow some of the black-eyed peas and then just let the green beans finish out, let the tomatoes do what they want to do. And then, of course, I have my summertime leafy greens and things like that. There will still be things growing, but I'm not going to ask for massive production from this garden. I'm going to grow those until they flower. What beans do is they pull nitrogen out of the air, and they fix it in their roots. And you also know I'm having trouble getting hay around here, that people have been out of hay for months, and that's a good mulch, and the summer sun is just going to beat down on any bare parts of the soil and just really be brutal. So what I'm going to do is plant these beds all out with the black-eyed peas, and when they start to flower, I don't want them to take all the nutrition that they got from the nitrogen and they're storing in the roots. I don't want them to put that energy into making fruit. So I'm going to come in and just chop them off at the roots and leave the green leaves laying on the beds as mulch, which will break down. Depending on how fast that happens, you know, how quick the cycle goes, that they get up to flowering and what time of the summer it is, I may replant. I may do this continuously until October and, you know, just keep them well watered and chop and drop, you know, and then when I'm ready to replant, move some of that mulch aside and plant some more. We'll see. This is the first time I'm going to do it this way. I've done it as a summertime crop where, you know, we've harvested and eaten the black-eyed peas or cow peas, but I've never done this just as a chop and drop living mulch. I've seen it done on many other channels and it's really wonderful. But that's what we're going to do. Just cheap grocery store, $1 bag of black-eyed peas. And in the bed with the cucumbers, you can see here's some of our onions. They've done really well. They're getting pretty big. I'm kind of happy. I got these in really late and they're still doing well. And in here is this lovely summertime spinach. And it's reached the top of this trellis. So I'm going to come and take all the cucumbers out. And I am not composting this. I'm not dropping this. This is going in the trash can. And over here are the leeks that did so-so. It was all my fault. I'm going to take those out too, leave the green matter here in the bed, and I will harvest the leeks and put them up for future use. This is a vegetable amaranth. It is also a summertime green. I need to get out here and pinch the top off because it thinks it wants to go to seed. But as long as you keep it pinched back, it's a nice leafy green that you can eat any way you eat spinach. You can eat it raw, you can cook with it. It's really, really healthy and good for you. It's also called callaloo down in the Caribbean. Over here in this bed against the fence, I planted okra, the heavy hitter okra, and it germinated okay in this bed. I had a very poor germination out in the garden. So I've got 4 plants growing here, and we'll see. I really wanted a whole garden full of okra, but not this year. This is a cranberry hibiscus, and it is an edible, and it will come back every year. It'll spread seeds. It'll come back all kinds of places, and every year it's like a guessing game. Where's this thing going to pop up in the garden? But it's really good, especially to take the leaves fresh and steep them in some hot water, add a little honey, and it tastes like a very tangy tea. It's really good. Let's look over here. This is the green bean tunnel, and there's the progress. This is the tunnel we put up, I put up on another video. Here's another wall of green beans, and I've added a 3rd wall of green beans. And these are getting ready. I got to get out here in a few minutes and pick some green beans. These logs were over there in the corner, and I was going to make some sort of a flower bed, and the weeds took it all over, and I've been working on that. But I brought these logs over here, and eventually I'm going to start another bed right there along the fence. I think it's kind of neat. And here is our little experimental cherry tomato. I've had this Sweet 100 cherry tomato in the ground since October, and it grew up a great big plant, and then it sent out some root suckers, so I cut the whole plant off and let the root suckers grow. I had 3 of them, but only this one seems to have survived. We do have some blossom dropping there. You can see right here on this little stem where the blossoms are not developing. Oh, hey kitty. I have a cat meandering through my feet. But we do have some fruit on here. This has been an experiment. I'm noticing the leaves are smaller than they were on the original plant. And I don't know if it's due to the heat or if it's due to it just being off a root shoot, but I'm just experimenting, guys. We'll see. We've got a few little fruit on there. And in this row over here, right here, I have a Berry's Crazy Cherry, and I need to get in there and prune the inside of it. And it seems to be doing pretty well. It volunteered from a cherry tomato that dropped off. And this is another one that I didn't like it in the winter. It was very bland. And I'm wondering if it's one of those tomatoes that needs the summer heat to really bring out the flavors. Here's a mess. And you see this little kitty right here? She's the reason for this mess. Her and her friend. I came out here and moved these rows back. Planted this center row right here. Made it even and equal to the opening of the arbor. So I moved the rows over so that the pathway would be right in front of the arbor. And I came out and planted twice. I planted flowers down both sides, direct sowed seeds. Kitty and her friends said, "Oh gee, thank you, Mom, for the new litter box." So I came out and put up hoops, put up bird netting, and all that stuff is still laying here. And even with all of that, I have very poor germination. I just bought seeds from, I think, Tractor Supply in their clearance seed section, which leads me to another project I'm going to talk to you guys about in the future, where I'm going to build an area where I can start seeds. I used to have the little hoop house thing, and this is going to be similar, but it's going to be much bigger, grander, still going to be cheap, y'all. Real cheap. Mama's cheap. Let's look at the beefsteak tomatoes. I'm going to let y'all go. Okay, so here we are. Here's our beefsteak tomatoes. This is an experiment for me. I want to see if I can plant tomatoes, which varieties I can plant in the spring. That will go further into summer for me, because if I'm planting tomatoes in October, then they're playing out by March or so. You know, they just don't have a super long lifespan. So I want to see if I can succession plant which varieties do better. So I just got a burpee beefsteak tomato at the garden center, and they're doing fairly well. I do not, however, recommend these cages that the man at the Tractor Supply recommended to me. He said he was an avid gardener and that he grew beefsteaks every summer, and that these cages were perfect for his beefsteaks. Now, I don't know if he is massively pruning down his beefsteaks, but beefsteaks spread out far and wide. And look at this. But let's look at some of the fruit. There we go. We've got some big fruit in there, some big fruit over here, and I'm going to have to come out and find a way to stake this stuff up. This wall of tomatoes is probably going to come out pretty soon, even though it's still producing. It's not producing a lot. The one there in the middle died, and all the fruit has ripened on the vine. I got to get those. And we've got some blight along the bottom here, and it's really close to my beefsteaks, so I think I'm about to pull these out. But they're continuing to grow. These were from the suckers I pulled off of the tomato plants I planted out in October. When they grew up and I started pruning them, I rooted the suckers in water, and then I put those in potting soil, kept them in a shady spot, and then I put them out here in the garden in January. So they've done fairly well. It's all just a big experiment. Oh, and a special announcement. Today is May 7th, 2022, and starting May 9th, the Florida Agriculture Extension offices, there's 59 locations in Florida. If you'll go to look up your local extension office, there are going to be 59 locations where they're giving out free seeds, and it is called a Unity Garden initiative, I think is what it's called. But go look that up, and they're doing programs. So call your local extension office, see if that's available in your area, share with friends. They're going to be giving out free seeds. And thank you guys for coming to hang out with me in the garden today, and I will catch you next time. Bye, y'all.